He's back! Scooch in a bit.
We watched a post-lay.
Get the fuck out of my house.
Your sister. She's gone. These people, they're blasphemers. A cult. A disease.
Apostle is directed by Gareth Evans, the director of the Raid movies. It stars Dan Stevens, Be Still My Heart, and Lucy Boynton, and it tells the story of a dude in 1905, a former missionary.
Was it 1901?
1905.
Was it? Oh.
Yes. And he goes to an island, I want to say off the coast of Ireland or Scotland or Britain. I mean, somewhere in the British Isles.
It was shot in Wales, so...
Yeah. And he goes to infiltrate a cult that is holding his sister for ransom. And crazy shit goes down. This is a Netflix exclusive. I had been hearing about it for a while. I've been meaning to watch it for a while. I've been very busy.
It's not an excuse. You have a YouTube channel.
You shut the fuck up. So, yeah, you have Apostle, which is a movie that by all accounts is batshit insane. And, it was.
It's not the cult movie it looks like it's gonna be.
Not at all. I was expecting something akin to The Wicker Man, and it started out quite similar to The Wicker Man, and it was wearing its influences on its sleeve. And then about an hour and a half in, this is a 2-hour film, it just goes balls to the wall nuts. And I was not expecting half of the things that happened.
Yeah, it's the first, like, 45 minutes is really slow, then it goes, like, full Wicker Man, and then it goes, like, A Cure for Wellness.
Careening off the rails, in a good way, I would say. Do you have anything to preface this with?
The score, absolutely gorgeous. The framing, just the location as a whole, everything about this movie is pretty. From...
aesthetically?
Yeah, aesthetically and sound-wise. Just everything about this movie, aesthetically... was fantastic. I can't find a flaw with it.
I agree, actually. Specifically, I do want to mention the score, because the score is incredible, and it's very, very minimalist. It really very much sounds like the type of music you would hear on a creepy cult island.
It honestly, the score reminded me a bit of The Witch.
Yeah, it's very similar to Mark Corvin's, like, The Witch. Like,
not quite as good.
No, it's not as good, but just in terms of that, like, that creeping, dread-fueled minimalism that just keeps going and ramping up and getting more and more intense as the movie goes on. It is similar in that regard. I can feel that. And I do, like you said, I also love the setting. The sets specifically, the set design is incredible. Again, it really feels like this tiny cult commune. It really feels very... natural for something so crazy. There's all these really beautifully designed branch structures. The entire town is interwoven with these vines, and it looks really, really cool.
But it's not even just the setting, it's also the cinematography, which is fantastic. Like, you had some really, really gnarly, gritty shots.
Oh, yeah.
And then you had, like, the one ludicrous shot where he ends up running off, which was hilarious, but it was intentional.
Yeah.
This is someone who really knew how to frame each scene.
Yes. I almost said Gareth Edwards, the guy who directed Godzilla and Monsters. That's not Gareth Evans.
Very different
Gareth
type
Evans,
of movie.
Really does well directing action, I feel. Because The Raid, I haven't seen it, but from what I understand, they are both incredible action films. The way he directs the fight scenes in this movie and the way he shoots them are so excellently done. And they're so well framed and so well choreographed, and they lead to some really gnarly sequences of gore. And those bits are awesome.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, the one. I don't want to spoil anything, but...
someone gets a pole through the face, and it's really cool. Yeah, this movie is very long, as I said. It's very much a slow burn to start off. The opening is very slow. I'd say for the first 45 minutes to an hour, this movie is creeping along. And it is building the tension slowly, but it's doing it very slowly.
It's doing it too slowly.
Almost to a detriment, I would say. Yeah, that is definitely where I felt this movie was lacking in terms of its pacing and in terms of having a few too many things going on. There are 1 or 2 subplots in this movie that I feel are totally unnecessary and just really add a lot of supplementary shit that is just... there's no need for it. It does nothing to service the main story of the film. There's a romantic subplot, and then there's one involving a leadership change, and both of them, they tie into each other, but they don't tie into the overarching narrative, and I didn't really care for them in the end. I was hoping they were going to go somewhere, and they never really went anywhere.
They're gratuitous. They're there solely for the sake of adding some more gore, some more violence, some more... And it's just, with a 2-hour and 10-minute runtime, it's just excessive.
I agree. I completely agree with that. I also will say that as much as I love Dan Stevens and I want to marry him, I did feel his performance was a little lacking here.
Really? I thought he did fine.
I thought he was okay. I didn't think he was bad, but I thought he was just kind of whatever. Like, he was just doing the same intense, like, talk through my teeth thing the whole time. And I was kind of bummed out about that. Like, it seemed like he was trying too hard to be an ether addict or whatever he was in the 1900s, and I feel like he could have played it a little more naturally, especially knowing what a good actor he is.
Beware false prophets which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves.
The Guest is an amazing movie.
Either way, I thought the character that he had here, I thought it fit well. I thought it was natural.
Like I said, I thought he was fine. I just think his performance was a little bit lacking. Lucy Boynton did a good job, though. I like her.
I don't know her from anything else either, but I thought
she was in
great.
The Black Coat's Daughter, and she's great. She's a really good actress. But yeah, I mean, there definitely was a lot I did like about this movie. I mean, there were, like we said, the aesthetic is really nice. There is quite a bit of Wicker Man homage in here. There's a lot of creepy cult dance parties and weird masquerades going on. And it adds to this overall surreal nature of the film, but it doesn't really feel connected to what the end result is.
Yes. The first half of this movie, even almost 3/5, 2/3 of this movie,
it's very different than what it ends up being.
And I'm not sure I like what it ended up being.
I like the themes of what it ended up being, and I'll talk about that in a minute. There are one or two, let's say, entities in this movie that feel straight out of Silent Hill, and there are a couple of torture devices in this film that feel straight out of Silent Hill. I loved that aesthetic that it pulled from. Easily the most memorable parts of the movie are involving those things.
See, I disagree, and I hate to say this, because the most memorable part of this movie for me came out of one of the subplots, and I hate that it came out of one of the subplots.
Was it the drill bit?
No, it was...
Oh, the fight scene in the house? Really? That was
I thought that was the most memorable.
Interesting.
I thought that was just a really, really well done, really gritty fight scene.
It was a great fight scene. I just didn't... Okay, interesting.
And it was just, like, a ton of tension throughout it.
Yeah, that's fair. I just really liked I loved the guy with the vines.
Well, yeah,
for a head.
He was awesome looking. But...
Really cool design. Yeah, there's a lot of really cool design choices and aesthetic choices in this movie, and I really appreciated the overall production design of the film. I think that it has a really clear, defined vision overall in terms of its look.
Definitely.
And that, like, the overall look of the film is probably the thing I appreciate most about it. There's a moment in this film where it finally delves into Thomas's backstory, and you get a flashback of what he went through. Minor spoiler, it doesn't actually matter to the overall story. Thomas's character was a former Christian missionary who lost his faith when he tried to bring Christianity to Peking, China, and him and his men ended up being brutally tortured and their missions burnt to the ground. Again, doing so made him lose his faith, and this entire film is him existing in the aftermath of that. That ties in pretty well, I'd say, to the overall theme of the movie, and I feel like, and granted, this is up to my interpretation, this is my own personal view of the movie, and y'all could have a very different one, but I really feel like this movie as a whole is like a takedown of the negative aspects of forced organized religion, and how forcing organized religion upon the unwilling will only lead to suffering. The only two characters in this movie who end up with something of a happy ending, I feel, are the people who either reject it overall, or the people who are open to accepting something greater than their own personal beliefs. And I really liked that about it. I really think that was an interesting story to tell. I think that was a really cool theme to tackle in a movie like this.
I agree with you, and I agree with your interpretation as well. I think that you hit the nail on the head here, but for a movie that had so much creepy cult stuff going...
You were hoping for more creepy cult stuff?
I think they could have tackled the same issue through the creepy cult stuff without having to delve into the area that they did.
That's fair. That's fair. I can definitely see that. I did like it, though. I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed what it had to say. I thought it was a really interesting take on the idea of organized religion, especially with it being through the lens of a cult.
It just, like, the ending, the whole third act, per se, even, reminded me a lot of A Cure for Wellness, Just
loved A Cure for Wellness.
See, I didn't love A Cure for Wellness because it veered too far off the path for me, and I would say this did the same thing where
this movie is very crazy, guys. Like, it gets really nutty, especially in the last half hour.
I'm gonna use the word bizarre.
Bizarre is a good word as well. Hey, what would you rate this movie?
It was solid, I guess.
Honestly, that's what I was gonna say. I would definitely call this movie solid. It's really well directed, and it has a clear, defined vision, even though that vision takes several strange turns to get to where it's going.
I wouldn't necessarily, because of the turns it took, I don't think it was a really enjoyable... There's too much that this movie did right.
And that's totally fair. I mean, like I said, like we discussed, like the aesthetic and the sonics of this movie are fantastic. And there are some really, really solid performances, even though a lot of those performances are like consistently dialed up to 11. I think it is really, really well done overall. It's well crafted. I just think that a lot of fat could have been trimmed out. There were some choices pacing-wise that I definitely would have changed up a bit. But as a whole, if you're looking for a movie that is just really gnarly and really just completely insane, check it out. Especially if you like gore. I would definitely recommend this if you got some time to kill and you want to see a pretty solid movie. Watch Apostle. I'm gonna try and get him in one more video before he goes back to school, but you know, if not, always good to have you, buddy. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like this channel and you want to see more, click down there, like, comment, subscribe. There's a Patreon link down in the description if you want to support this channel and help us make new and better videos and review more fun stuff for you all to enjoy. Consider donating, guys. Even $1 helps. I would really, really appreciate it, but even if you don't, I
meant to sign up for that.
You're not one of my patrons? You fucking dick! Get out of my house! Thank you so much, guys, as always, and I really appreciate y'all.